I'm 71 and I don't hate people. I just feel better when they're not around. Hello, friends. At 71, life has taken on a new clarity. It's not just the gray hairs, the creaky knees, or the never-ending doctor appointments, though those certainly keep things interesting. It's the shift in perspective, the way I see the world, and more importantly, the way I see people. I don't harbor resentment toward anyone, but I've grown to appreciate my own company more than ever. There's a lightness, a freedom that comes with solitude, and I've found that I feel better when I'm not constantly surrounded by others. If you're in your late 60s, 70s, or beyond, perhaps you've noticed this shift too. Let's talk about it. A lifetime of lessons. A lifetime is a collection of stories, some cherished, others painful, but each one shapes the person we become. At this stage, I often reflect on those stories, and what stands out most isn't the big milestones like weddings, promotions, or anniversaries. It's the quieter moments, the lessons hidden in the everyday experiences that have left the deepest mark. When I was younger, I believed in the inherent goodness of people. I thought that with enough kindness, understanding, and effort, relationships could be nurtured and sustained. But life has a way of proving otherwise. I learned, sometimes painfully, that not everyone shares the same heart, the same intentions, or the same capacity to value what you offer. There were betrayals from people I trusted, moments when I was taken advantage of by those I tried to help, and times when I misjudged others so badly that I questioned my own instincts. But these experiences did not make me bitter, they made me wiser. They taught me that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every connection is worth keeping. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Holding on to someone who is only meant to teach you a lesson is like refusing to turn the page on a chapter that has already ended. Letting go is not just necessary, it's liberating. The shift in priorities. Looking back, I see how much of my energy was spent trying to fit in, please others, and meet expectations that were never truly mine. I gave so much of myself, believing that selflessness was a virtue and that putting others first was the hallmark of a good person. But now, I understand that self-care is not selfish, it is necessary. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The best relationships are not one-sided, they are mutual, built on a foundation of reciprocity and respect. As I reflect, I see how my definition of happiness has evolved. When I was younger, happiness was loud. It was found in the thrill of a crowded party, the rush of a new adventure, or the pride of achieving something significant. Now, happiness is quiet. It's the comfort of sitting on my porch with a cup of tea, watching the sun dip below the horizon. It's the peace of knowing I don't owe anyone my time or energy unless I choose to give it. It's the joy of being fully present in a moment, unbothered by the noise of the world. The importance of boundaries. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned is the importance of boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about protecting your space, your peace, and your well-being. It's about knowing your limits and not feeling guilty for enforcing them. For years, I thought saying no made me unkind, that it meant I was failing as a friend, a partner, or a family member. But now, I realize that saying no is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. It is a declaration that your needs matter too. Boundaries teach others how to treat you and ensure that the relationships you maintain are built on mutual respect. The value of meaningful connections. With time, life reveals what truly matters. The friendships I cherish now are fewer, but they are deeper. These are the people who have stood by me through storms, celebrated my joys, and accepted me exactly as I am. I no longer feel the need to collect acquaintances or maintain relationships that have run their course. I no longer chase validation or worry about who likes me. The truth is, I like me, and that is enough. I have grown comfortable with my own company, and I no longer see solitude as loneliness but as a gift. In the quiet, I can hear my own thoughts, dreams, and truths more clearly than ever before. So no, I don't hate people, far from it. I have simply learned that not everyone belongs in my life, and that's perfectly okay. The time I have left is precious, and I intend to spend it on what truly matters: peace, joy, and the simple, profound beauty of just being. The beauty of solitude. There is a unique grace in solitude, one that I never fully appreciated until later in life. When I was younger, the idea of being alone felt almost unbearable. I associated it with loneliness, a lack of connection, or even a loss of purpose. But now, at 71, I see it differently. Solitude is not an empty space. It is a place where peace resides. It is where I found myself again after years of being caught up in the noise of the world and the expectations of others. I have come to treasure the quiet. In the stillness, I have learned to listen, not to the voices of others, but to the whisper of my own heart. There is something profoundly healing about sitting with your thoughts, allowing them to unfold without distraction. The chaos of life fades, leaving behind only clarity. In those moments of solitude, I have come to understand who I truly am, what I value, and what I need to release in order to feel free. I have realized that the busyness of my younger years was often a way to avoid myself. It is easy to fill your days with obligations, people, and endless noise. But when the house is quiet and there is no one else to entertain or impress, you are left with the one person you can never escape: yourself. At first, that realization is unsettling, but with time it becomes a comfort. In solitude, I have learned to be my own best company. I have discovered the joy of doing things simply because they bring me happiness, not to please others, not to meet expectations, but for the sheer delight of it. There is a quiet freedom in solitude that social interactions often lack. When I am alone, there are no expectations to meet and no roles to play. I do not have to be the caregiver, the friend, the entertainer, or the problem solver. I can simply be. There is no pressure to say the right thing, anticipate someone else's needs, or measure my words. It is just me, existing without pretense. This does not mean I have closed myself off from others. I have not. I still cherish meaningful connections with family and friends, but I approach them differently now. I no longer feel the need to fill every moment with company or conversation. I do not chase relationships that drain me or engage in social obligations out of guilt. Instead, I choose my interactions carefully, prioritizing depth over quantity. And in between, I retreat into the sanctuary of solitude, to recharge, to reflect, and to savor the quiet joys of life. I have also come to understand that solitude is not something to fear. It is a gift. It is in those moments of stillness that I feel most alive, most connected to the world around me, watching a sunset, listening to the rustle of leaves, or simply sipping a cup of tea in the morning light. These simple acts, when done in solitude, feel sacred. They remind me that life's beauty often lies in its quietest moments, not in the loudness of crowds or the rush of activity. Solitude has taught me to value my own company, to trust my instincts, and to find contentment within myself. It has shown me that I do not need to be surrounded by people to feel whole. In fact, the more I have embraced solitude, the more I have realized how much strength it takes to stand alone, not as a sign of isolation, but as a declaration of independence. At 71, I have stopped worrying about what others might think of my quieter lifestyle. I have stopped apologizing for needing space, or for choosing to spend my time differently than I once did. Solitude is not a rejection of others. It is an embrace of myself. And in a world that constantly demands more, I have found that the greatest gift I can give myself is permission to simply be. Why socializing feels different now. There was a time in my life when socializing felt as natural as breathing. I craved connection, thrived in the company of others, and found joy in shared laughter and camaraderie with friends, family, and even strangers. But as the years have passed, I have noticed a shift, not just in how I approach social interactions, but in how they make me feel. It is not that I dislike people or that I have closed myself off. Rather, the act of socializing feels fundamentally different now, as though the rhythm of connection has changed with age. In my earlier years, socializing was an integral part of my daily life. It was woven into every aspect: work obligations, family gatherings, catching up with friends, and engaging with my community. Back then, I never questioned whether these interactions truly nourished me. I simply participated, believing that being busy and surrounded by people was the hallmark of a fulfilling life. Now, at 71, I see things more clearly. Socializing is no longer about filling my calendar or keeping up appearances. It is about meaningful connections, and those are far rarer than I once thought. Time and experience have taught me that not every conversation is worth having, and not every relationship is worth maintaining. There is an emotional toll that comes with superficial exchanges and one-sided relationships, and I have become more protective of my time and energy. As I have aged, I have become more attuned to the nuances of human interaction. I notice things I once overlooked, the subtle manipulations, the insincerity, the unspoken expectations. I have learned to read between the lines, to recognize when someone's interest is genuine and when it is merely transactional. While this awareness has made me more discerning, it has also made socializing more complex. It is harder to approach people with the same unguarded openness I once had, because I have learned, through experience, that not everyone deserves that level of trust. I have also realized how much energy socializing requires. Energy that I no longer have in endless supply. We often underestimate the effort it takes to be fully present in a conversation, to truly listen, empathize, and engage. In my younger years, I could move from one interaction to the next without a second thought, but now, I find myself needing to conserve my energy, to be intentional about where I invest it. More often than not, I choose quiet over company, not because I dislike people, but because solitude replenishes me in a way that socializing no longer does. This shift does not mean I have abandoned relationships. It means I have redefined them. I no longer feel the need to maintain every connection or accept every invitation. I have let go of the notion that saying no makes me selfish or unkind. Instead, I focus on the relationships that truly matter, the ones built on mutual respect, understanding, and love. These are the people who have stood by me through life's ups and downs, who know me as I am and accept me without judgment. They are my true circle, and they make the rare moments of socializing feel meaningful rather than obligatory. I have also learned to find joy in smaller, quieter interactions. A brief chat with a neighbor, a kind exchange with a stranger, or a shared laugh with a family member. These moments, though fleeting, often feel more genuine than hours spent in larger, more formal gatherings. They remind me that connection does not have to be grand or elaborate. Sometimes the simplest interactions hold the most meaning. Socializing now is less about quantity and more about quality. I no longer seek to fill my days with people. Instead, I look for depth in the connections I do have. It is a quieter, more intentional way of relating to others, and it feels truer to who I am at this stage of my life. At 71, I have come to terms with the fact that not everyone will understand this change. Some may see it as withdrawing, as becoming less involved or less available. But I see it as an evolution, a natural part of aging and growing into myself. Socializing may feel different now, but that difference has brought with it a greater sense of peace, purpose, and authenticity. And for that, I am deeply grateful. Trust changes over time. Trust is one of the most fragile yet essential elements of life. When we are young, it comes easily. We extend it freely, believing in the goodness of others and assuming that most people will treat us with the same kindness and honesty we offer them. But as the years pass, life teaches us that trust is both precious and precarious. At 71, I understand this lesson in a way I never could when I was younger. Trust has not disappeared from my life, but it has transformed, becoming more deliberate, more guarded, and more deeply valued. The journey to this understanding has not been easy. I have experienced my share of betrayals, disappointments, and heartbreaks. Friends I thought would stand by me faded away when life became difficult. Promises were broken. People I trusted revealed sides of themselves I never expected to see. These experiences were not unique to me. They are part of the human condition. But each one left a mark, a quiet reminder that trust, once lost, is rarely regained in full. Over time, I began to see patterns. The more I trusted indiscriminately, the more vulnerable I became to those who did not have my best interests at heart. It was not always malice that caused harm. Sometimes it was thoughtlessness, selfishness, or a simple lack of consideration. But regardless of the cause, the result was the same, a wound to my faith in others. These experiences taught me to be more discerning. I no longer give my trust freely. It must be earned. This does not mean I assume the worst of people, but I have learned to wait and watch, allowing their actions to reveal their character before I open my heart fully. It is a slower process, but it is also a safer one, and it allows me to build relationships on a foundation of mutual respect and authenticity. I have also come to understand that not everyone is capable of meeting the same standard of trustworthiness. This is not a judgment, it is an observation. Some people, for whatever reason, struggle to be consistent, reliable, or honest. Others may have good intentions but lack the emotional tools to follow through. Recognizing this has helped me let go of resentment and instead focus on surrounding myself with those who align with my values and reciprocate my efforts. At this stage in my life, I no longer seek trust from everyone. Instead, I have cultivated a small circle of people who have proven themselves over time. These relationships are my safe harbor, the places where I can be vulnerable without fear. They remind me that while trust can be fragile, it is also incredibly resilient when nurtured with care and understanding. But even within this circle, I have learned to balance trust with self-reliance. Life has shown me that ultimately the person I can count on most is myself. This does not mean I have closed myself off from others. It means I have developed an inner strength that allows me to weather disappointments without becoming bitter or broken. Trusting myself has been one of the greatest gifts of age, and it is something I wish I had embraced sooner. Trust also looks different now because my priorities have shifted. I no longer feel the need to place my faith in everyone I meet. I do not feel obligated to maintain relationships that no longer serve me, or to give second chances to those who have proven they do not deserve them. This is not about being unforgiving. It is about protecting my peace. My time is limited, and I choose to spend it with people who enrich my life, not those who drain it. At 71, I have come to see trust as a delicate yet powerful thread that connects us to others. It is not something to be taken lightly or given without thought. Instead, it is a gift we offer carefully, knowing its value and respecting its fragility. And while the journey to this understanding has been filled with challenges, I would not trade the wisdom I have gained for anything. Trust changes because we change. We grow, we learn, and we adapt. And as our understanding deepens, so too does our ability to navigate the complexities of relationships with grace and clarity. Trust may be harder to give now, but when it is earned, it feels all the more meaningful, a reminder that even in a world filled with uncertainty, there is still room for connection, honesty, and hope. The pandemic's impact, embracing stillness in a chaotic world. The pandemic was a turning point for all of us, a moment in history that forced the world to slow down and take stock of itself. For me, at 71, it felt like a paradoxical gift wrapped in uncertainty and loss. As the world grew quieter, I began to hear my own thoughts more clearly. In the stillness, I found an unexpected clarity, a chance to reevaluate what mattered most and rethink how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. Before the pandemic, life often felt like a blur of activity. Even in retirement, there were routines, obligations, and the ever-present hum of busyness that seemed to define modern life. There was always something to do, somewhere to go, someone to see. But when the world shut down, all of that came to a halt. At first, the silence was unsettling. The quiet felt unfamiliar, almost like an emptiness I didn't know how to fill. But as the days stretched into weeks and months, I began to see the beauty in the stillness. I started noticing things I had overlooked for years. The way the sunlight shifted across my living room floor, the rhythm of birdsong outside my window, the sound of my own breathing as I sat alone with my thoughts. These small, simple moments became a source of comfort, a reminder that life's beauty often lies in its quietest corners. The constant noise of the world, its demands, its distractions, had been silenced. And in that silence, I found a sense of peace I hadn't realized I was missing. The pandemic also changed the way I viewed my relationships. With social distancing and lockdowns in place, I could no longer rely on the usual forms of connection, family gatherings, casual visits with friends, or even a friendly chat at the grocery store. At first, this isolation felt like a loss, a void where connection used to be. But over time, I began to see it differently. It wasn't that I didn't miss people. I did. But I also realized I didn't need constant interaction to feel connected. Instead, I learned to value the deeper, more intentional relationships in my life. A phone call with a dear friend, a letter from a loved one, or a quiet moment of prayer became profound sources of connection. These moments felt more meaningful than the surface-level interactions I had often relied on before. The pandemic stripped away the noise and left behind what truly mattered: authenticity, sincerity, and love. One of the most surprising lessons of that time was how much I enjoyed my own company. Before the pandemic, I might have avoided solitude out of habit or fear of loneliness. But being alone during those long months forced me to confront myself in ways I never had before. I realized that I didn't need to be surrounded by others to feel whole. I could find joy in my own presence, in my own thoughts, and in the simple pleasures of daily life. This newfound appreciation for solitude also reshaped my relationship with the outside world. I no longer felt pressure to say yes to every invitation or to fill my days with activity for the sake of staying busy. Instead, I embraced the freedom to choose how I spent my time and with whom. I became more selective, more intentional, and ultimately, more at peace. The pandemic, for all its challenges and heartbreak, gave me a gift I never expected: a chance to slow down and truly see my life for what it is. It reminded me that the pace of the world doesn't have to dictate the pace of my heart. I can choose stillness. I can choose simplicity. And in doing so, I can find a deeper sense of fulfillment than I ever thought possible. Rediscovering what matters. As I've grown older, I've come to understand that life is not about chasing every fleeting desire or filling my days with endless activity. Instead, it's about appreciating what truly matters and letting go of everything that doesn't. This realization didn't come all at once. It was a gradual awakening, shaped by years of reflection, mistakes, and the quiet wisdom that only time can bring. In my younger years, my world felt endlessly busy. I was caught in the whirlwind of obligations, raising children, building a career, tending to relationships, and trying to meet expectations that often felt overwhelming. I believed that productivity equaled purpose and busyness equaled success. But as the years passed, I began to see the cracks in that mindset. Too often, I sacrificed my own peace and happiness in the pursuit of things that, in hindsight, held little meaning. Now, at 71, I see life with clearer eyes. The things that matter most aren't tied to possessions, accolades, or packed schedules. They are the simple, everyday moments that bring joy and connection. It's the warmth of a hug from a grandchild, the way sunlight streams through the window in the early morning, the taste of a favorite meal cooked with care. These moments, though small, are profound. They remind me of the beauty that exists in the present and the richness of a life lived with intention. Part of rediscovering what matters has been learning to let go of people, of expectations, and even of parts of myself that no longer align with who I have become. There's a kind of grief in releasing old versions of yourself, but there's also incredible freedom. I no longer feel the need to prove myself or keep up with anyone else's idea of success. My days are no longer defined by how much I accomplish or how many people I please, but by how present and fulfilled I feel. This simplicity has also reshaped my relationships. I no longer cling to connections that feel forced or one-sided. Instead, I focus on the people who genuinely enrich my life, the ones who understand me, accept me, and bring light into my world. These relationships are fewer but deeper, reminding me that it's the quality of our connections, not the quantity, that truly matters. Is this normal, finding peace in the natural flow of aging? I've often wondered if others feel the same way. Is it normal to crave solitude, to grow more selective in relationships, to prioritize peace over productivity? The answer I've found is yes. Aging brings with it a natural shift in perspective, one that many of us share but rarely speak about. In our younger years, life often feels like a race. There's so much to do, so much to achieve, so many people to meet and impress. But as we age, the race slows, and we begin to realize that not every finish line is worth crossing. We start to see the value in pausing, in stepping off the track altogether, and in simply being. This shift can feel unsettling at first. The world tells us we should stay busy, stay social, stay involved, even as we grow older. But what the world doesn't often tell us is that it's okay to change. It's okay to let go of the expectations you once carried and create a life that feels truer to who you are now. This isn't giving up, it's growing into yourself. What I've learned is that this stage of life is an invitation to live more authentically. It's a chance to strip away the noise and distractions and focus on what really matters. It's not about withdrawing from the world, but about engaging with it on your own terms. And while this may look different for everyone, the underlying truth is universal. As we age, we become more attuned to our own needs, more accepting of our own limitations, and more aware of the beauty in the present moment. A life of clarity and contentment. As I sit with the reflections of a life well lived, I find myself filled with a deep sense of peace, not from having all the answers, but from finally understanding the questions. What truly matters? What brings joy and fulfillment? The answers are not found in the noise of busyness or the endless pursuit of more, but in the quiet simplicity of being present with what is. Aging has a way of stripping away the unnecessary, leaving only what is essential. It teaches us to cherish the moments we once took for granted, the warmth of the morning sun, the comfort of a familiar routine, the gentle presence of those who truly care. These small but profound gifts are what make life rich, not the distractions we once thought were so important. At this stage, I've let go of the need to prove myself or meet expectations that no longer serve me. I've stopped chasing things that never truly mattered and instead embraced what's already here. This clarity has brought a contentment that feels deeply grounding. Life, in its imperfect beauty, is enough. For those walking this path with me, I encourage you to lean into this season of life. Embrace the lessons it offers, the peace it can bring, and the love that still surrounds you. There is no right or wrong way to live this chapter, only your way, shaped by the wisdom you've earned and the truths you hold dear. As I look ahead, I don't worry about what's to come. Instead, I trust that the same clarity and grace that have guided me this far will continue to lead the way. Life may slow down, but its richness deepens, and in that, I find more than enough. As we grow older, it becomes essential to reassess the habits that have become deeply ingrained in our daily lives. One such habit is excessive self-stimulation, whether through overindulgence in digital distractions or the pursuit of fleeting pleasures. While it is natural to seek comfort or moments of excitement, relying too heavily on these sources of stimulation can lead to feelings of emptiness, detachment, or even dissatisfaction with the present moment. Rather than depending on constant external stimulation to feel fulfilled, it is worth embracing activities that provide a deeper sense of satisfaction and engagement. Choosing hobbies that stimulate both the mind and body, such as gardening, painting, or taking a leisurely walk in nature, can create a more meaningful and enriching daily life. These pursuits not only help maintain mental clarity and emotional well-being, but also foster a sense of accomplishment and peace. By gradually reducing the habit of seeking quick, temporary pleasures, we allow ourselves the opportunity to experience moments that contribute to long-term happiness and a more balanced state of being. In today's fast-paced world, it is easy to become disconnected from the natural world. Many of us spend far more time indoors than outdoors, often surrounded by artificial stimuli that can overwhelm the senses rather than restore them. However, nature offers a tranquil environment that has the power to rejuvenate both the mind and body, providing countless benefits such as stress reduction, improved focus, and a heightened sense of well-being. The good news is that reconnecting with nature does not require elaborate plans or grand adventures. Simply stepping outside for a daily walk in the park, sitting quietly by a lake, or tending to a small garden can create opportunities for reflection and renewal. These simple acts allow us to slow down, observe the world around us, and cultivate a sense of inner peace. As we immerse ourselves in nature, we begin to notice how it nurtures not only our physical health, but also our emotional and mental well-being. Over time, these moments spent in natural surroundings make it easier to embrace a slower, more mindful approach to life, one that encourages presence and appreciation for the world as it is. Living simply does not mean giving up everything we own or making drastic changes to our routines. Instead, it is about making thoughtful choices that align with our values and bring us closer to a life of